This question is about risk analysis because it's look at it. They said you should estimate the level of risk of the two firms P and Q. So these are two different companies, right? So you need to what we're trying to do here. We are trying to estimate the level of risk that these guys we are going to have. So if you look at it, it said if R represent the required rate of return from each investment, and then P is the associate probability of a given return occurring to estimate the level of risk of the two firms. So if you look at it, we actually have right. So now when we want to do this now, right? So this particular P, now let's focus on the P. So they have R, which is what the R there represent the rate of return from each investment. P is a probability that actually that return is actually coming to them. So there's actually a formula for that. There's a formula that you can use to calculate expected return for return. So we can just okay, let's just look for firm A or firm P, right? So the formula for expected return is equals to is writing here was so our that is expected return is equals to sigma. You know that sigma sign and summation sign. How can I write that on the system? Seeing that symbol, but it's sigma symbol, right? If I have it like this, I'm gonna just put E. But that this E I'm writing here is not E letter E or E sigma. Then you now put uh, multiply by R times P or times P R times P. Then that's the formula R times P. Let make it simple. So now, so this is what we have for this. We are done for this one. So we have this. So on this table now, for this one, if you look at this one now, we have six. For the R here is six, and the P here is 0.110. Do you understand? So we need to now do the math, simple math. So we have the probability, we have the R. So let's do for this one. So we are going to like have a new table here, right? So this table here will now be like our return, which is R. And then we have another column. Why is if I type this rubbish, it will change to this, which is R. And then I have the next column, which is probability. So probability is supposed to be P, right? Then the next thing we are doing now is RP, R times P. So now we have to do R times P on this column. So what would I have? So here we have six. We have six here. We have seven. Yeah, this one you're just bringing what is from this table. Yeah, seven. We have nine. We have 10, and then on this one we have 0, 1, 10, and then we have 0, 1, 10. Forget it. So 0, 1, 10, 0, 0.25, and then we have 0.3, and then we have 0.25, and then we have 0.1. So this is it. So now here we are going to now do it. So we are now going to do just like this guy here multiplied by this guy. That's just what we're going to do. So we say equals to this multiplied by this. So this is what we get. So we now have this. You understand? So now that we have this, right? So that formula. So remember that the formula we have here is this E, like I said, is summation of what this. So now we have gotten R times P. So now when I use sigma, that sigma means summation. So all we need to do is just to add up this guy together. You understand? 0.60, 0.6 plus 1.75, add it all together. You understand? So, right? So that is all you need to do now is to bring, now we have gotten that, and then we'll bring this formula here, this one, and just copy. And just copy this guy. I'll now say, okay, expected this for this guy. This is supposed to be the answer 9 is going to be summation of this. Then I will now have what? 8. Do you understand? That's 8. Right, that is, and the answer is actually 8%. So this is in percentage. So this is what we have, 8 in percentage. So that's what we have. It doesn't make sense. This question is simple, honestly. The formula is not even long. So for that is for one, that is for company one, company P now. So we now do the same thing again. This next step, we are going to do the next one for the next company. Do you understand? So after we do that, right? After we do all this one, then the next thing we need to do, we need to calculate the difference. That is the deviation. Like deviation is just like the variance. So we need to calculate. But then before we do that, we now need to calculate the same thing. The same thing we did for this company one, we do it for the second company two, which is this one Q. You understand? This company Q now we still do the same thing, just what we did here. So let's say we have this one here, and then we move on to the next one. So we just do the same thing that we did here. We do it on this one. So, but on this one, it's for company what? Let's just say firm Q. We have this now, and then what is our R there is it's 4, have 6, and then we have 8, then we have 10, and then we have 12. So the probability we have 0 point this, and then we have 0.20, and okay 0.2, and then we have 0.4, and then we have 0.2, and then we have 0.1. So we just do the same thing by multiplying this by this. Then we have 0.4. So then we have this guy, right? So once I have this one, we go ahead and do the summation of it. So the summation of it means we now have to equals to summation, right? When I mean summation, see, I'm talking about stuff. This guy, it's the hand, see the value. This is what I'm talking about. That thing that I use here as E. This is what I'm talking about. So you now do sigma, whatever. So you now do summation of this guy. So we uh, this one to give us 8. Uh, okay, so that one to give us 8%. So we'll go ahead to do like we need to calculate the variance for what for 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 the first company, which is proper company one, which is this one. So we do that. So this is going to measure the variance there is going to measure the average square deviation of the expected return. Do you understand? Because now this is what you have done here is the expected return that you have done. You have no estimate the level of risk. So now this from here we are going to like say, okay, so let's find the variance of P, which is the first one. So we're going to have another table. So this one here, let us just pick this table. I'm going to get this table. So I have this table here. Then the next thing I'm going to have here is going to be our going to be Let's just have r minus 8, 8 raised to the power of 2. You know the squared now. Variation is this variation, the variance is the square of deviation. So you need to square the value. So I will have this one, right? So this is going to, so I have this, and then I will have this guy. This is raised to the power of, this is raised to the power of 2. So the next thing here, we're going to get our probability we're now going to get the probability multiplied by this one. So we have this probability multiplied by, raised to the power of 2, just what to say. So you can see that this one, we already have this value, so we need to compute this one. Like, we need to compute this one. So the first one here, and how we're going to get this one? What is r minus 8? That means like from here, this one now, we already have, that means you are sent 6 minus 8, right? 6 minus 8 will give us what?
-2.
Minus 2. Yeah, this person. So we have minus 2. So we now do 7 minus 8, we now have minus 1, right? And then we do 8 minus 8, will give us 0. 8 minus 8 will give us 0 here. Abi? And then 9 minus 8 will give us 1. And then 10 minus 10 minus 8 will give us 2. Abi? Hmm. So now we have that one. So now, with what we already have here, we raise it to the power of 2. Do you get? So that means minus 2 times minus 2 will give us 4. So this is going to be 4. This one is going to be 1. This one, 10, 0 raised to the power of what? 2 is what? 300. 0. Then this one, 1. And then this one, 4. Abi? So this one now is going to be P multiplied by what we have here now. Do you get? We already have something inside. This value is already what is here, the last one. So the P is what? That means here we are now going to say equals to, this is our P, right? The P there is multiplied by what we have here. You understand? Then this will give us what? 0.40, was just 0.4, same thing. So we have that. So by the time we do this, we can now get this formula down here, Shikina. You understand? So here, what we're going to do, and to get our this thing now, our variance, is to, this is the variance, the sum of variance that we have gotten. So we need to get the sum of it, right? So this is going to summation of everything that is here. Then we get 1.3. Yes, we now have 1.3. For this is for one company. We are going to do this for another one. We are going to do the same table that you have gotten here. We are going to do it for that another company Q. We do like that. Do you understand? But now, if you look at it now, from what I said, we are going to get the variance, and variance is the what? The square root of what? The deviation. So now we have gotten this. So we need to now do the square root of it. So we now put the square root. We use a bunch of calculator, then you just get the value, right? So like what I mean is, have if I have this calculator can be scientific now. So I now have, where's the square root here? Right? Function system calculator is bullshit. Sorry, somebody. Helen, you want to ask a question? Hello? Someone wants to ask a question. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I have a question though. It's on. Can I go ahead?
Okay, go ahead.
The question is on former the former calculation you did.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't seem to see the question. I can see the solution, but I can't seem to see the question.
This one.
Not this one you're doing. The former one.
This one.
Calculate, yes. I can't seem to see it on the material.
What is the holding period return for this bound? What is the holding period? So what you are looking for is the
The
hold.
whole question is what I'm talking. You don't understand what I'm trying to
Yes.
say.
What the question? You can't see my screen.
What I'm saying is, I didn't see the question gone on the material. What I saw there was the solution. Do you understand?
Okay, are you talking about the solution that you have in your material, Abi?
Okay, my question is, you see this question
I solved.
that I'm seeing now.
Mm,
I can't find it on that material. What I can see on the material is the solution. I can't find the question. I don't know how to
I
explain
understand.
it.
That is why I'd say I understand. So now this the past question solution that I solved. This question is on it, which is what you saw there in the solution. There's no question there, right?
Oh, okay.
That was the past question paper that I saw. So each past question paper, you can actually, I think someone even sent all the past question paper. You can get the past question anywhere. That's it. Each question that I saw there has the year of that past question paper.
Okay.
There's a year
No
of
problem.
each question I saw. There's a year of the past question paper. So if the question
Ah,
did not start with the question, the solution there, you should know that okay, this is the past question paper that this boy is talking about.
yes, sir.
I think that's what you're trying to get, Abi. Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. So, Henry, I think you wanted to say something.
Hello.
Yes, can hear you.
Oh, okay. It
Okay,
went silent
okay.
for a
So
while, so
I thought someone hands has been up. I thought maybe she want to ask a question, but since she's and the hand is up again. Okay, Helen, your hand is up. Okay, let's just continue then. So we have gotten this now. We are going ahead to do. So we like I said, we are going to do what we have here is the standard deviation. Then we need to get the variance of it, and the variance of the standard deviation is just the square root of the standard deviation, then to give us the variance, right? So we move on to it because the reason is like the question that asks you to estimate the level of risks. So you need to test this on different apples. Now these are the level that you are going to test it. So by the time you do that, you now compare this all these answers to now say that okay, these companies actually have more risks than another one. You understand? So it just the same. You can't just use one. And you can't just use only the you cannot just use the expected this thing return to determine the risks. Because if you look at that one, they already have the same. They are all returning the same thing at the end of the day. They are returning the same percentage. So that's why we now have to do another thing. We now do the variance, and then after we do the variance, we're also going to do. I think we are also going to do coefficient of variance again, but the formulas you can see they are very short formulas. They do coefficient of variance and then like that, and then after all that, they're going to have like about four solutions for each of the companies. So far we have done two. So we are going to do We have done variance, we do standard deviation, and then we do the coefficient of variation. Then from there we can now compare this between we compare for each company, and then so. But if you look at it now, it's just the same thing. What you do for one, you do for another. You do for one, you do for another. So we just copy the same method like this, right? And then we do for another brand. So this was the stand. This is standard deviation. This is HD, standard deviation. So we need to get the variance. So like I said, we need to get the variance. So how do you get the variance? In Excel, variance is the square root of standard deviation. So we can use use my Chicon and with my new calculator. The calculator that I got today, if ABC I should not use it, they will kill me. That's the square root again. The square root of 1.0, 1.30. So if you do the standard deviation of the variance of the square root of 1.30, what do you have on your end? Because what you should have 1.4, 1.14, right? That's why I use my calculator. That's what I see. Is it the same? Any other person have used calculators to get the same thing? So you need to get the variance and the order. So this was the standard deviation value, and this is the variance. So we are going to do the same thing for the other company, and then we'll just do the same thing. So this is going to be for Q. So that one they have this. So they already have this. So they have their return and probability is this one. So now next thing we need to do, they are this thing too was what 8. So just the same thing. So we just say okay, array is equals to what? This is now equals to 4 minus 8 is what I need. So I'll just do this and it's give me this. Then this is going to be uh, this times
16.
this. Give me 16, right? Then I have this, right? Then I will now say okay, equals to the probability which is this multiplied by this. Do you get? Then it will give me 1.6. Right, so this is 1.6. So I'll get the standard deviation. So I'll now say equals to uh, summation of summation of this will give me 4.8. It's giving me 4.8, right? So this is going to my HD. So I'll use to get the variance. I will now say, okay, this one is 4 square root of 4.8. Then that will give me if I do the variance of square root of this will give me 2.19% percentage actually. So that's what I'll have. So when I have this, right? So now after this one now, the next step you need to do coefficient of variation. This is actually it's so like I don't know whether you guys have read matter to this level, but I've seen this in that material. Now, it's there's a statement that said that the coefficient of variation is actually optional if you want to. It's optional, but it's actually useful because you can use that one to is a is something you can use to determine. the level of risk anyways. So if you want to do that, that one too has a formula. Like I said, the formulas are short formulas. So not big deal. Do you understand? So if you look at it now, so we have done this. You can see if you're doing this now, you look as if the whole your solving will be very much. But sincerely, all you need to do is just the one thing you do for one, you do for another one, you do for this one, you do for this one. Your answer sheet is getting full. I know some persons will actually ask for extra sheet at the end of the day, but just for one question. Yeah. So you just move on with that one, and then okay. Should we continue now? I don't know, guys. Should we continue?
Yes, yes, let's continue.
Okay. So let's do the CV now. Let's do CV. CV mean coefficient of variation, right? We do the CV of variation. So if you look at this now, right, we are just now this company actually are doing business together. So and you understand what is risks already. You know what is risks. Now risks in finance actually it refers to uncertainty or variation that the variation in or hope it's not my network. Sorry, I need to pick this call. Sorry, I'll call you back. Okay, so I was trying to explain that the thing is that we are trying to the question wants us to estimate the level of risk. Just like someone me you invest money in right? I invest money to your business. Let me just explain the question. You have a business and let's say I invested some money, right? So it means that you are telling me that I'm going to this is what is going to return to me and you want maybe this like kind of a period. Let's say 1 year it's going to return like maybe 6%. And that 6%, what is the probability that I will get that money? He said it's 0 1. That is, probability cannot be more than 0 and 1. Anything probability cannot be anything 1 point something. So what it means like I'm having 0 0.1 chances of getting back 6 naira. Do you get? So now, but I invested. But what I'm trying to do is like I want to know the risks of getting this money based on this probability. That is what we are trying to do. Do you understand? So the chances, the risks here is like we're trying to estimate the level of risk that we have. That is, they are looking at the chances. What are the uncertainties that will occur that I may not get this money based on this probability? That's what we're looking at. So the level of risk, which is what the question they're asking us to estimate the level of risk here, right? Of these two companies. Because you invest this money, these are different two companies. So this one, this is how much you are expecting that the return you are expecting at this probability. So now, estimate the level of risk here means you want to know the degree of the uncertainty. You understand how much risk am I going to face? That is just what they're trying to do. So so if you have like if the risk is low, then you know that okay, money will get back to you where. Uh, So let's just continue. So we are going to do the CV, right? Which is this one is the coefficient of variation. It will also help us to. So after we do all this one, we now use them to determine the level of risk that we have to face at the end of the day. Oh, so this one has a formula for. It has a formula like this. The formula is going to be uh, the standard deviation. CV has a formula like SD. That's standard deviation, right? Uh, Divided by expected return. Expected return uh, multiplied by 100. Multiplied by 100. So this is supposed to be S. The standard deviation divided by this, divided by 100. Right? So that's the formula. So this is very simple. So for this company P, for the firm P now we have what is our standard deviation for that one, right? And what is the expected return? Eight each of them. So this one was P. And so what we need to do here, what is our standard deviation? Our standard deviation is for this one was it P. Okay, we are looking at the looking at the variation. So yeah, we're looking at the variance. So this is going to be this value. We're looking at the variation, which is this one, 14. Sorry, I'm supposed to write. So this should be 1.14 divided by 8. Sorry, divided by 8. 8 is the expected return that we got for this one, and then we have this. So this is going to be equals to this now multiplied by 100, then it will be in percentage. So this is what we have. So we will get this value. Right. So for this one now, which is Q, is going to be what we have here now is going to be the variation here was is 2.19 divided by 8. So this what we have. And then this is going to be equals to this multiplied by 100. Then we have this 27 point something. Do you understand? So now you can see at the end of the day now, what we can do now, because all the formulas or the method we are using to determine this, do that we put them together. So I will now say that we have our final. We're looking at our final answers, right? We're looking at our final answers, which we are used to look at the level of risk in this aspect. Level of risk. So we have majors. So we are looking at the majors that we are used to determine the risks, which is this, and then we now have the for FMP, and then we have for MQ. Yeah. So now we have this. So the first measure we used, we wanted to determine that by using the expected return, which this one answer was 8. This one is also 8. So we have this is just a summary. Everything is already there. But then we have our variance, which is one for this one we have 1.3, and then for this one we have 4.8. 4.8. 4.8. So standard deviation SD, which is the square root of that of the variance. Standard is the square root of the variance. So we now got this one was 1.14, and then we have this one 2.29, right? So and the CV, which is the coefficient of variation, is going to be here. We got 14.25%, but that is in percentage. So we got this, and then we now have 27.38. That is the values that we have here. You understand? So approximately, because if I remove the decimal point of this guy, is what I have. So now, so this is our final answers, right? So now, how can we now use this to determine our risks, right? That is now the issue, because they say look at the so after we have solved this thing, so does any of you have an idea before I just do the conclusion? Any of you have an idea of how to
I
do it?
did, of what, please?
Now you have solved. Now you have used all these measures to determine the level of risk. So now, looking at this now, what are you going to look at to say that okay, this one has more risk than another one? How can you conclude on this?
I think is the difference is in the values between
Okay,
firm P and Q. I think firm Q is kind of a bit has high values compared to firm B, starting from variance. I guess I don't know.
okay. From P and Q. So now let's just say let's start from each measures. Like we first of all we did the expected return. So if you look at it, if you look at the if you look at the well, let's just use the standard deviation, right? If you look at the standard deviation, so when you are using the higher standard deviation, right? When the standard deviation is high, the risk is higher. You understand? When the standard deviation is lower, the risk is lower. Do you get now? You have the lower risk when the standard deviation is high, and when you have the lower risk when the standard deviation is low. We have the higher risk when the standard deviation is high. So which one has the highest standard deviation?
Firm Q, no.
Thank you. Perfect. So
Yes,
if you want to like interpret this now, thank you is risky. You understand? Because 29.19 is greater than 1.4.
yes.
You get. So we can just use that. I never use that to just say that and then move on. You don't need to go and say any other thing. So when the standard deviation is high, right, the risk is high. When the standard deviation is low, the risk is low. So looking at that, you can say that the the FNQ is actually what? Risk. So we have used all this method that we use here is just to determine the what we use this to determine. That's why I said this CV, right, is optional. You can do it, but it's not really because the reason why you have to do the expected return before you can start thinking of doing the standard deviation. Because you can see from the formula, you have to use that. Do you understand? So we have to do this before this will come. Because if you don't do this one, right, this will be very, very difficult for you to do. Do you understand? So that was just the answer for that question. And you have solved and determined that, okay, the company Q is actually more to get their money back. That's all. So on the past on F804 past question paper, we have already solved two questions that are calculations, right? So we can say okay, we just have two questions that are calculations on it. This question, but I don't know that this question will come. Isha, if you come, I know that some person will answer it. By the grace of God, go to our answer. So that's your 802. So which other question do you want us to solve? Do you have any other question you want us to solve? Or you have another question that you've been solving, but then you have some misunderstanding with the question?